Secretary of State John Kerry and his Russian counterpart in Paris tonight, trying to develop a plan for Syrian peace talks that are scheduled next week in Switzerland. The two say they have reached an agreement to broker a ceasefire in some of Syria's most embattled areas, but they can't agree on inviting Iran to those talks. And former Defense Secretary Gates today speaking out about reaction to his upcoming memoir entitled Duty.
Not really surprised, but you know, in a way disappointed that the book has sort of been hijacked by people along the political spectrum to serve their own purposes, taking quotes out of context and so on. And it's sort of part of the political warfare in Washington that I decry in the book.
Gates referring to the backlash from his book about the president's lack of commitment to the Afghan war strategy. Gates, by the way, was wearing a neck brace there after he fell in his home a week ago. Joining us now, Fox News strategic analyst Lieutenant Colonel Ralph Peters, Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist and Fox News contributor Judith Miller. Let's start with, first, before we get to Gates and to Kerry, these developments on Benghazi are fascinating. And one of the most fascinating aspects to me is that AFRICOM is nothing more than a shell. There were no assets. There are no assets. And I have to say, I was surprised at that. And how do you think that factored into what did or did not happen?
Well, I think if you're not prepared on the ground to do anything about an attack against an American embassy or a consulate in Benghazi, then you have to talk about another reason why you didn't have to be prepared, and it's because there was this spontaneous video that was the cause of this. I mean, I think this 450-page transcript we're just learning about now, right, Lou, really calls into question some of the administration's assertions about what happened in Libya, and it's not going to be good for Hillary Clinton. It also is not good for the New York Times and their reporting. I do not think so, because they just finished months of investigation. One byline story by a person who was a reporter who was based in Cairo. David Kirkpatrick. Exactly, who was viewed by some. There were complaints from the Christian Coptic community that he was too pro-Muslim Brotherhood. But he had also reported from Libya that a video was responsible in part for the violence there. And he sent back after months to do another story and basically re-examine his own reporting.
Ralph, let me turn to you on the issue of AFRICOM, the assets that were available, because, as you well know, much of the hue and cry has been, why in the world didn't the White House order someone in there to help those folks? There appears to have been, first of all, very few people that could have been sent there. And secondly, nothing on the order of what would be implied by something so grand as, quote unquote, AFRICOM.
Well, Lou, you're one of the very few people in the media who's done due diligence. AFRICOM is hollow. It's a beggar command. When they want to do something actively in Africa, they've got to basically beg forces from one of the other commands or from the United States. And so they didn't have a lot of capability. Now, that said, the military overall, from Panetta on down, nonetheless committed an unforgivable sin for military people. They didn't try. It doesn't matter if you think you can't get there. Even if you think it's going to be a month before you can get there, you try to rescue Americans when they are under attack by Islamist terrorists. And now we know, thanks to General Ham's testimony, that not only did he know, and General Dempsey, Panetta knew, Dempsey and Panetta were on their way to the White House. The bottom line is President Obama knew, President Obama lied, he had other people go out and lie. And Secretary Clinton, yes, it does matter why people died and how they died. It's the difference between a murder and a car accident.
And we will see where this leads. It has been a tortuously slow process toward gaining any evidence, any real understanding of what transpired there. I want to turn, if I may, to another development, and that will be the president speaking Friday on the NSA and how he, quote unquote, wishes to reform it.
Right.
Then we find out that the New America Foundation comes up and ballyhoos their criticisms and of NSA and their support for the president's view. It turns out that it is the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation of Microsoft, one of the companies extraordinarily critical of the NSA, whether for commercial reasons, ideological or otherwise. Google chairman Eric Schmidt, the Open Society Institute, of course, a George Soros facility. I mean, is there any way that we could see some expertise brought to bear in this discussion besides that of a politicized White House and a foundation that is supported by billionaire money?
Well, I think, you know, you get the results you pay for, but on the other hand, many, many people in the NSA community are divided themselves about whether or not the surveillance, the kind of surveillance that's authorized and that was practiced, has gone too far. I think the president is already committed to reforms long before this study.
Is this where we use the word change rather than reform, which sounds prejudicial to me?
How about castration?
I'm not sure.
You get the last word. If you wanted it to be that, you may. Yeah. Otherwise, you can embellish on it, Ralph.
No, well, actually, you know, the thing that troubles me is this is media and left-wing created hype. I worked in intelligence for almost 22 years. The United States government is not interested in the personal lives of any of your viewers. And I ask the basic question, Lou, how many Americans, give me a name of one American who has been injured tangibly by any of these NSA programs. Now, how about how many Americans have been injured by Target or Neiman Marcus or various other private companies that hoard our information? And by the way, I don't want to pick on Target because I love Giada's tomato sauces.